and welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Fara Sax. My guest today is Rabbi Mark Rose. He is the Regional Director of Southern NCSY, an organization that empowers Jewish teens to build a strong Jewish identity and passion for Judaism. Mark's life is as dynamic and inspiring with experiences which range from flight attendant to black belt in three martial arts. Oh, I gotta be really scared. He raises seven children, and what his passion is leading teens with purpose. Thank you, Rabbi Mark. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Well, you have such an incredible bio, incredible story. You've only been with NCSY since 2023 in Florida, but then
Right.
Canada before that.
Right.
Walk me through some of your bio so that people get to know who Rabbi Mark is.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. It has been a bit of a long, not straight path to get to where I am today. But if I go back to the humble beginnings, it's in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, near the Rocky Mountains in the west side of Canada, in a tiny, tiny Jewish community. Very little going on there in Jewish life when I was a kid growing up. But I came from a family that knew they were Jewish and were somewhat traditional. And I had a certain amount of Jewish experiences, like some Shabbat dinners and some exposure to Jewish education when I was a kid. As I got a little bit older, though, I found that my passion was really all about martial arts. And by the time I was out of high school, I was teaching martial arts full time. I ended up running studios by the time I was 19. And that was my big passion and what I spent really all my time doing. I've always loved teaching and coaching people, developing people. And I always liked the discipline, the exercise, and the challenge that came. And growing up in a small place like Calgary, without so much of a Jewish community around me, like many of my peers, although I was Jewish, it wasn't such an important topic to me at that time. I ended up getting married to somebody who was not Jewish, and I started a family that way. It wasn't until I was really into my 20s that that really started more seriously exploring my Jewish identity. Due to a mentor that I had. And that kind of triggered a whole journey that got me from Calgary to Toronto into the NCSY space in eventually over here to Florida, where I am today.
And you were a flight attendant?
So within that time, I became a flight attendant. There was a period of time where I decided that I was moving away from the martial arts world. And before I found really myself in the Jewish world and doing what I'm doing today, I had a friend who worked for an airline and said, "You've got to interview for this place. It's a great airline. It's tons of fun. You get to travel the world. You'll have amazing experiences. Just apply." I was like, I never pictured myself doing that, but on a whim, I decided to do that, to apply for it. I did have a lot of fun there and did get to travel and see a lot of different places, but. Now I have a lot of good flight attendant stories that I can use in my teachings at this stage of life.
That is amazing. And you're a musician.
And I'm a musician as well. Yeah, since I have a musical family. A lot of my family members were always into music, and some played professionally. In middle school, I was playing the trumpet and quickly picked up guitar. By the time I was out of middle school, and I never put it down. So that's I'd say martial arts and music were my two big passions growing up and going through life before getting into this, and I still am able to use those things today.
And what I find really, really fascinating is that, you're relatable. You really are so relatable to so many young people that are looking for those mentors and with such a varied background. I mean, it's probably a wonderful way to connect with teens because teens are a little different than, dealing with adults because they're searching for their Jewish identity.
Yeah, it's such an important age because that is an age where when I found myself going through my own Jewish journey, um, I don't look at my family as baggage, but when you have a lot of other factors to contend with, that Jewish journey can become more complicated. And there's just a lot to unpack when you're dealing with spouse, potentially children, if you're juggling career and you already have a lot established in life. So that those teenage years are an age where kids have grown up enough. They're looking for who they are, discovering their identity. they also have a lot of freedom to make significant choices in their life. So it's an excellent time for them to explore their own Jewish roots, explore their own identity. And yeah, I think I have a lot of relatability going through the experiences that I've had.
So in walks NCSY. It sounds like a joke. In walks NCSY to a bar. No, in walks NCSY to your life, to to teens that are in public school and private school. Talk about that.
When I got into NCSY, I had an opportunity to spend some time learning in Israel, and I came back to my home community in Calgary at that time to actually help develop the Jewish community there. I was teaching in a day school. I was helping with the synagogue. I was doing programming and whatnot, and I got some exposure to NCSY that at that time on a professional level. As my kids were getting older and we were outgrowing Calgary, we ended up moving to Eastern Canada, and that's when I started doing NCSY full time.
And we're looking at some B-roll right now of the programming that's happening. So you got into some of the programming of it. This is beautiful. This is at the Kotel, the Western Wall, the most holy place, and here you have a group of teenagers connecting with their Jewish roots.
Yeah, and it's the thing that I love about NCSY. The thing that's so powerful about what we do is it's first of all, it's an opt-in place for teens. It really is a safe space in that it's a non-judgmental space. It's not formal like a school. It's not rules at home necessarily or what's going on at a synagogue. It's a place where teens are free to explore their Jewish identity, to ask questions, to form good friendships, have amazing social experiences, have great discussions, and just highly impactful events. I think when you see a picture like that, those are those moments that have just been so inspiring and impactful and genuine. And it's really is a privilege just to be a part of those moments.
And I think that for young people, they are definitely searching for their Jewish identity. How do we fit into the world? Like for you, you were Jewish. You were culturally Jewish. I grew up the same way. And it wasn't until later in life that I was able to form my own identity, like you were questioning things growing up.
Right.
And these children are they're facing the same things, and this is a great way to hold them in a great safe hands to learn about that identity. Talk about some of those programs, how you get involved, how you reach out to those schools, whether they're private or public schools.
Right. So we have we really have a path that allows people to step on and participate and discover, authentically who they are. There's a few things that we do that are different in NCSY. For example, one of the programs we run is called JSU, Jewish Students Union, which you find throughout public and secular private schools throughout the state of Florida and beyond. Our region goes into other states like the Carolinas. We're in Savannah, Georgia, and other places. It can be challenging to put on programs and say to get teens to come out. It's notoriously difficult. People are always asking us, can you get teens to come out to our programs? We flip the script and we go to where the teens are. Jewish Student Union clubs are spaces where kids get to form social connections. They're able to explore their Jewish identity in a fun way. We bring in food. We do great activities, and we get to go to where they are in school. It's a great meeting point. And oftentimes from there, from that club, they're able to come out and have other exceptional experiences with us. Sometimes those are social experiences. Sometimes those are learning opportunities. Sometimes those are inspiring conventions where we go away to a hotel somewhere and spend a Shabbat program with, singing and dancing, learning, discussions, good food. And those are incredibly inspiring experiences. And I think a climax experience for many teens is going to Israel on one of our TJJ trips, the Jerusalem journey, where we'll send over 100 public school teens to have an incredible experience of 4 weeks in Israel, which is really the best summer ever and truly a life-changing experience.
So one of the biggest, most profound stories I heard about TJJ firsthand, a young man was struggling to figure out what his Jewish identity was. And this young woman who was part of the experience understood that. She saw that, and she called the rabbi and she said, "You have to get this child, my peer, into this program because he really needs this for his soul."
And that was a life-changing moment for him because his whole life tipped and turned and got into an orbit where he got his North Star because of TJJ and the experience that NCSY brought
Mm.
to this child's life and soul. So I thank you that personally because I was able to witness that firsthand. So these are the stories that come out of it.
That's amazing. And I appreciate that story so much. I think that there are two choices. There are two things we try to do. We try to provide a platform and the experiences that let teens have those moments of inspiration and empowerment, but ultimately set them up to make a decision. Everybody's on their own journey. And the idea is that through having these immersive, exceptional experiences, they are empowered to make a decision to say, what do I want my Jewish identity to look like? How meaningful is this going to be in my life?
Absolutely. And moving even further along, October 7th, the rise in anti-Semitism, even before that, ongoing. How do you address that? What do you say to these teens that first are very vulnerable and then having to contend with this? How is that addressed during your time together in your programs?
Right. It's a complicated issue because there's such a negative aspect to it and there's a surprisingly beneficial side to it.
Let's hear this. Let's hear the beneficial first.
The reason it's beneficial is the main work that NCSY does is to reach out to teens that are oftentimes assimilated. A lot of times people are apathetic about their Jewish life. They don't even know what to know or what to ask. And sometimes those experiences serve to just to engage them, and they end up kind of waking up in a sense, finding that, oh, this is something that I want to explore and find out about. But the assimilation, being apathetic, being indifferent to one's Jewish identity is a much bigger obstacle to overcome. In a way, the beneficial side, surprisingly, with the anti-Semitism is teens and parents en masse have started reaching out to us saying, we need you. We need a JSU club in our school. We need to engage with our teens. It's that wake-up call has already happened. So in a way, we're busting at the seams in that so many more people are looking to engage. And therefore the anti-Semitism has actually helped us to reach out more families to give them support. But also with that support, we're able to inculcate Jewish pride and experiences that help them go through the process.
How many teens are involved? There are regions, so let's talk about where they're located, what states, and how many are local.
Right. So NCSY is certainly a large organization throughout the United States, Canada, into South America, and in Israel. Regions are broken up geographically, like tri-state through New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Our region is southern, which makes up the state of Florida, through the Carolinas, Louisiana, Savannah, Georgia, places like that. We have regions on the West Coast on the California side through Portland, Midwest through Chicago and surrounding areas, and a number of other regions that spread out geographically to really cover the majority of the United States. In our region in Southern, we have a couple of statistics that are surprising to me, how things have changed really since October 7th. We're right now, we have over 4,300 teens that have come through our programs in Southern NCSY in our region alone. That's probably from 2 years ago. There's probably 1,000 more at this point in the year than where we were at 2 years ago.
Do you think it's because of October 7th? Does it have to do with the anti-Semitism?
Yeah.
Trying to strengthen one's identity?
Yeah, it clearly is to me. The fact that we've gone in a year and a half from 65 JSU clubs, which is a large amount of JSU clubs, but to go from 65 to 90 JSU clubs where we are today in a year and a half, I would think that would normally be a process that would take years, 5 years, 10 years to expand our network of clubs to that extent, and we've done that in a year and a half. And it just speaks to how many people post October 7th are reaching out saying, we want to engage.
What did you learn since you've been at the helm, whether it be since 2023 or when you were in Canada working with the NCSY there? What did you learn about yourself and your family during this time? Because you've gone through a lot of morphosis too in your own family.
Yeah, there's been a lot to digest. I have a tremendous amount of life lessons to take away from my own personal experiences, and then all the more. So there's a Jewish teaching that where one rabbi says that I learned a lot from my teachers. I learned even more from my peers, but from my students, I learned most of all. I
Mhm.
found it to be very true for myself as well. I've had the benefit of learning from some great teachers, and the colleagues that I've worked with has been tremendously valuable. But from all the work with the teens that I've done over the years, that's given me a tremendous amount of my own personal inspiration and knowledge. And it really is about helping people succeed, meeting people where they are, and trying to help bring out the best in people. And in that way, it's very fulfilling and meaningful work. Keeps me young and energetic and inspired.
Well, it seems like you have a lot, and you feel a lot, and you do a lot, and it's so great the experience, your own experience that you bring. You've walked the walk. You understand that search.
Yeah, and it is almost again that side of there's positives and negatives, and a bit of a it almost can be a bit of a doomsday statistic. But if you go to many communities across America, and if you would put 100 Jewish families in a room, you'd say 70 of these families are not going to have Jewish grandkids. The assimilation rate is really really high. People have Jewish families become assimilated, have lost touch with their Jewish identity, whatever that means for them personally. But just Judaism, and I saw that in myself, was just not such a relevant part of their life. Um, but the positive side of it is, you never play the odds. It's a worthwhile, it's a necessary endeavor. It's a pleasure to be involved with it, and you do see hundreds and hundreds of success stories.
Tell me
Um,
about a couple of those success stories and coming back, or just you said, oh, that's an aha moment that makes this job, this life that I'm leading, so worth it, and the work that I'm doing is important.
It's funny. One of the experiences that always just jumps to the surface for me, and one of those lessons has been in sometimes the more difficult circumstances.
It always is.
Yeah, in hindsight, those are some of the best, the most fun, the most memorable. I remember coming back from one of our president's conference, a JSU conference where we take teens from JSU clubs who lead their clubs all over the country, and they get together and have an incredible, inspiring conference and learn a lot of skills. On the travel back, the last flight of our night, the plane got canceled, and they got us onto the first flight in the morning, but we had about 5 hours, not enough time to get to a hotel. And here we're stuck in an airport. So me and one other colleague, so we had about 20 teens, stuck in an airport overnight, which was like a nightmare scenario. Nobody had food. Nobody was set up for the experience. It was,
Winging it.
in the moment, it was like, oh, like a why me moment. Like, I can't believe we have to go through this. It was such a
Special
headache.
teams.
You're trying to call their parents. You're trying to get everyone set up, not to panic. It's um,
And you have Jewish parents, right?
yeah, highly concerned, highly concerned.
Bad 5 hours.
Yeah. So rough. But you know what? Those group of teens for the rest of the year, we had a chat. We continue to engage those teens in our programs, and that group became such a good group, such a team. Such a support group for each other, and we had so much fun. And the programs became incredible. And I saw them come on from that event to Shabbatones. I saw many of them grow. I saw some of them make the decision that, what, after high school as a senior, I want to go spend a year in Israel, live in the country, have those experiences. I saw people who were, I was looking forward to seeing where they would get to in their careers. You see future politicians and business leaders, and you see the careers that they're going on to have. And that was a few years ago now. And, a number of them are in college or still in Israel. When you get to catch up and you just see where they're at, it's awesome just to be a part of that journey and a part of that experience and seeing who all these people go on to be. That's an example of the type of experience that has been really meaningful.
And it's probably really hard because you have like these little birds that are going to fly, and they're going to fly, and you're only with them a year, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, maybe,
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
in the totality of their lives. And that's hard to watch, but it must be such pleasure, naches, as they say, pleasure to really to look back and say, I made a difference in that kid's life, or they made a difference in my life.
Yeah. That's right. So true. And sometimes you'll get later, 10 years down the road, which has happened to me. You'll get a wedding invitation. And sometimes there's somebody we've stayed in touch, even if it's a couple times a year. Hey, how you doing still? It's a lot because there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of teens that you've worked with over the years, and you try to meet and know as many of them as you can. But yeah, you'll get those moments, and a wedding invitation to a Jewish wedding, from somebody that you taught when they were 16 or 17 years old is really an incredible thing.
And talking about your own life, we talked about that, and I read about one of the biggest influences that you had and experiences of loss was your father. But it was also the most learning that you did and growth.
Yeah, it was a very tough moment, but some of those real soul searching moments. Now when I look back at it in hindsight, I can recognize moments that were intellectual triggers for me to explore my Jewish identity. And then there were emotional triggers, and yeah, when my father was sick and passed away, he went through a very tough battle with cancer, and he really fought it for a long time because my wife and I were expecting my oldest daughter, and he wanted to hang on and he wanted to see her. So, I think from that experience, I really had to question for myself, just what does my own identity and my family, what does our Jewish future look like? I look at my father, and my grandfather and, his parents, and it's like, we're part of a chain. We are part of a long tradition. And I think that's one of the wake up calls. And I think it's one of the reasons why I find the work so meaningful, because oftentimes those wake up calls do come. Sometimes they can be more painful. And again, in that teen space, I think it's giving people that opportunity to explore that. I know for me, I did it in a way that was a pretty emotional way. And I want to afford people the opportunity to be able to explore that.
And with experience, you're able to walk the walk with them and influence them. And that's a beautiful, beautiful time to be in a young person's life. Message. What message would you like to leave us with today about the NCSY programs and young people that you work with?
I think the Jewish people have the message of the Jewish people is a message that I would also personally like to share, which is a message of hope. You do see the assimilation, and you see the spike in anti-Semitism, and you see a lot of challenges that are out there. And Jewish or not, you see all the challenges teens are facing with smartphone technology and with social media. Everybody talks about rising rates of anxiety and depression, and there's a whole slew of challenges that teens are facing in all sorts of ways. But ultimately, what teens need to hear from us, what I like to share, and I think what Judaism has really shared over millennia, is a message of hope, that there is a happy ending, to never give up, to stay the course, and to know that you've got a lot of people in your corner who are rooting for you, cheering for you, and we'll get there together.
That's beautiful. Rabbi Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you want information, it is southern.ncsy.org, or you can call 866-887-5788. Thank you again.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for joining in. I'm